We are ready to call this meeting to order. It is 5:32 on January 16th, and we are meeting via Zoom due to the weather. Um, Before I read the preamble, are there any community comments? I'm not sure if I'm looking at this right, but I don't think I see anybody else here.
There's not.
Okay, so we are going to get started with our next agenda and first agenda item, which is the superintendent comments. Superintendent McCoy, would you like to start?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone, and Happy New Year. I'm going to be brief tonight because we have a joint school committee coming up on January 30th, which will be much more detailed from our team at central office. So just a few quick things. I want to thank our Chickering staff and students for putting on a wonderful Festival of Lights event back in December. I had an opportunity to go and to witness it and to hear the students reading poems and singing songs as a whole group and looking at the similarities and differences between all of the fall and winter holidays that really focus on lights and being the light. And it was just wonderful example of community and all of the work and things that we've been talking around relative to inclusivity and learning about differences. I also want to thank our Challenge Success team for a great event last week. I'm not sure if any of you tuned in for the Well-Balanced Child presentation, but it was great. Denny and I both attended. It was relevant for elementary school students as well as middle and high school. So lots of great themes around developing autonomy in students, getting students to problem solve for themselves. So it was a good reminder as a parent, but as educators too, how important the Portrait of a Graduate skills are for kids K to 12. And lastly, just a plug, you probably saw the reminder invitation today that Denny and I will be presenting the State of the District next Wednesday night at 6:30. It'll be in the middle school library. You as school committee members are very well in tune with the strategic plan and next steps and where we are as a district. This is an opportunity for Denny and I to present to a broader range of parents, guardians, caregivers, and taxpayers about our strategic plan, where we are and where we hope to go. For those who aren't able to make it at 6:30 on Wednesday night, we will be recording it and making it available online for people to watch after the fact. And we can even try to put it up on DSC TV so taxpayers in the community who aren't parents can have access to it as well. So those are my quick updates. I'm happy to take any questions or feedback.
Thank you, Beth. That's awesome that it could be made so widely available to everyone. I believe next, Denny, you would be giving an update as well.
I do not have an update this week. I have
Okay.
lots of updates for you all on the January 30th meeting.
Perfect. Thank you. Moving on, our next agenda item is the financial reports. Don will be reporting on the current warrant report and the fiscal year 24 monthly report.
Yes, thank you, Liz. So in your packet is a pretty sort of extensive warrant report, mainly because we haven't met since November, but everything listed is what's been paid since your last meeting. And again, we've tried to provide as much information as we can as far as the type of funds that are being used and the amounts, and they're always available for review if anyone would like to see more of the detail. On the monthly report, so in order to give you the most relevant information, because we had posted some payroll and some other warrants, I did a funny date. It's January 10th. But that is sort of your status of operation of appropriations. There are really no changes on the in-district side to be noted. On the out-district side, you know that we were waiting for two things. One was the final numbers from Circuit Breaker, and the second one was our initial transportation invoices from Accept, so that we would be able to project out special ed transportation for the majority of our students who are transported with Accept. And so we have both of those numbers included in the report for you. So you will see that there is a significant variation in transportation. Not surprising if you think about that we're also over budget with our number of placements. And so we're looking at transportation being over budget right now of just under 90,000. And we did tweak the tuition cost. So the numbers are slightly higher, not much, but a little bit higher than the first report. So some of the numbers embedded, although the narrative didn't change, some of the numbers did. So we're looking at really about $1 million overage right now for out of district. So what was helpful to find out was what was our final circuit breaker. So remember, this is the reimbursement we're getting from last year's expenses that we can apply to this year's. And so you have the breakout in your report. We got a total of $1,108,479 broken out between tuition, which was just under $1 million, and transportation. And I will have to say how fortunate, you can see how high our transportation numbers are. And so it has been a huge benefit that transportation was built into the circuit breaker reimbursement formula. This is really new. This came out when the whole student SOA was coming out, and it really was to sort of help those districts that weren't getting a lot of money from the Chapter 70, but was incurring a lot of out of district expenses. So that is like almost like a bonus of 181,000. So that we're very grateful that that is. The only downside to that is last year we actually received the 75%, which is mandated. This year the number is coming in at 57%. I was just on a call though about circuit breaker last week, and there is some hope that that number will go up. They have a set number for circuit breaker if you think about what was approved in the state budget. And so, you know, when they did that budget, they don't know how many claims are coming in. They also have to be concerned about something they have called extraordinary relief. So at the end of the year, when everything settles and they see where they are, there is a chance that that 57% could go up a little bit. Luckily, it will just be added money for us because right now we are grateful to get the 57%. But you will see that so we have $1.1 million. We're over $1.4 million just in out of district. So there won't really be that turn back that we typically are able to provide to the town of Dover. So we're making sure that Warrant is aware of that too as they build their fiscal year 25 budget, because that's sort of free cash that's not coming back because of our situation this year of our placements. Any questions on just the financial statement and the out of district? Okay, the other thing that's included in your report, and this happens once every 3 years, sometimes you hear me talk about the end of the year report that we have to file on an annual basis. Because we're a school district that only has one school in it, we're not required to do this on an annual basis. The region actually has to do the compliance audit on an annual basis. So Dover was in the rotation to have your fiscal year 22 end of the year report reviewed by the auditors. So DESE gives them a set of things that they have to go check and make sure we're recording everything appropriately in our end of the year report. So there's most of the report that's in your packet sort of says the steps that they have to do. So it looks like it's overwhelming, but really they just have to report what steps that they complied with. And then the only finding that we have is not anything that how we filed the report, but it mainly deals with the fact that we don't really have a formal memorandum of agreement with the town of Dover about how we share indirect cost. And we've been cited before that they tend to probably allocate too much to us. And so they want it more formalized. So this came up the last go around, and we've had so much change. We had COVID and then the change of town administrators. So this will be something that we'll work with the new town administrator. So we have something in place before we're reviewed again. It's sort of a priority, but probably not a top priority on everything that we have to do. But it's something that we should sort of work out. And there's sort of, I have lots of samples from other school districts, and we've never had one. And, you know, it's not like we had one and it's outdated. They just never pulled one together between the school district and the town of Dover, and vice versa across in Sherburne. We don't have one as well. So we'll probably try to dual create one so that we have a more formalized a process of what they allocate. Because right now, just to give you a feel, so they say that we're 60% of the budget. They allocate like 60% of a lot of their departments, accounting, finance, to us. because we're 60% of the budget. And I think that's a little higher than what you see in most towns. So nothing to really be alarmed about it all. I mean, we file our reports accurately, and that's key, because if you think about it, when you go to DESE and you look at the profiles, as much as all the school districts can report everything the same way, that's where when you're really able to use that data and compare. Because if we all didn't file it in the same manner, that data wouldn't mean anything to you. So that is what DESE is doing with these compliance audits, is just ensuring that everyone's recording things the way they'd like to see it done, with the function codes and sort of the buckets that you put everything in. If you ever see an end of the year report, well, Liz, you probably glanced, it's a big book. It's unbelievable amount of sort of putting numbers and line items in boxes, but it's highly used by DESE. It also sort of serves to help with some of our grants and such. So it is an important document. So we are fortunate that we only have to do it every 3 years. And that's the only finding, but we wanted to share it with school committee just so that you are aware.
Thank you, Dawn. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Okay. Dawn, thanks as always. It's like easy to understand, which I think allows us all to be confident in what you are telling us. So thank you for organizing it like that. Next, we have our discussion items, and tonight we just have one discussion item, which is the proposed fiscal year 25 budget. This is version 2.0. I believe we saw the first version in November, but Dawn, I'll let you continue.
So we are in a position tonight to bring forward 2 or 3 adjustments to your budget based on new information. 2 of them actually deal with out of district. And obviously, if I had more insight into our fiscal year 24 transportation cost for out of district, we're going to have more insight into 25. So we were able to update that number. And then new information has come forward for some placements. So I was also able to do a little tweaking of our anticipated tuition costs. But going back up to the your in-district, so typically we wait till after February 1st to announce any retirements, but we have a retirement that we do know is happening for sure. So we wanted to bring it forward to school committee tonight, because tomorrow night we're actually presenting the budget to Dover Warrant. So it allows us to show them where we are as close to where we are that we know now, versus having to wait until after that meeting. So that's why we're sort of jumping a little bit ahead of the February 1st timeline for when educators can actually say they don't want to retire, but we got confirmation that that's happening. So we have one adjustment to your in-district, which is a $60,000 reduction in the educator line item for one retirement. So as you know, this is how we sort of keep our budget balanced from year to year. So you have a person who retires who's been here for a long time, is at the top of our matrix. And when they retire, it allows us to then bring someone in lower on the matrix. And so that $60,000 savings is where we estimate we can take the salary now to where we can hire someone to take that position next year. So that is a positive, that we're seeing a reduction in your in-district, and we're looking at an increase right now. Instead of a 5.53, it's a 4.8. So anything that we can do to bring that number down is gonna be helpful to Warrant. On the out of district, oh yeah, go ahead.
So I was gonna say a quick question on that, Dawn. I know that's the plan and that's how we've sort of been managing the budget, but I think when we're going through some of the negotiations and such, it seemed as though we weren't often hiring at the lowest tier. So sort of question is, at what level are you budgeting? Do you budget for somebody coming in just like a couple of steps up? Like, I just want to make sure we're inclusive and make sure we're able to still hire the best candidate.
And we do look at positions and what we're replacing. So this is a classroom teacher. We usually budget between a master's 3 and 4. So between the masters, like with 3 or 4 experience, so not a B1. We don't go down there, but there should be a huge pool of educators who are interested in coming to Chickering. And that's, you bring someone in who's maybe got a year or two of that classroom experience, but then they're able to come in and they've got the energy, and I'm not going to say they're sort of not set in their ways, and then they can just sort of mold with, learn fresh with our curriculum and stuff. So at the elementary level, for a classroom educator, we typically don't have a problem with staying to that. It's when you get to the specialists, if we were looking at Spanish, look at high school chemistry, we do budget higher than a master's, like 3 or 4, for those replacements.
Okay, thank you.
And the other thing, actually, let me just mention on in-district. So we are watching the enrollment projections, because if you noticed in your enrollment projections in your budget book in the binder, you see that there's some class sizes based on projections that are below our 17 to 22. That gets a little harder to look at because it could just be 1 or 2 students because of the number of sections that we have. But we will probably present updated census numbers for you at the March meeting, just to sort of see where we are, and spend the spring sort of looking to see what sort of real data we're seeing, because we have our projections, but so much happens in the world, it's hard for those to sort of be the end all. So we will keep an eye on that. But because we have a replacement, if you remember, we did the same thing last year with kindergarten being small. And we do know that the incoming kindergarten census right now is about where it was last year. It's in the low 50s. So we have this retirement. We probably won't post this right away, and we'll hold it to see what happens. And again, we did the same thing last year. And when we got feeling that we were going to have class sizes that were going to sort of keep us in range, then we did post that. So we have sort of the luxury of having the ability to wait. It wouldn't have to be a reduction in force in this situation. And we'll see there's about 3 grades that we could potentially reduce a section and stay well within your 17 to 22 class size range. So do know that that's on our radar to take a look at that exactly the same way we did last year with the kindergarten. And we'll let Warren know that as well.
I'm sorry, Don, I'm sorry, can you just remind me, what is the size per class that we were aiming for?
Between 17 and 22.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and so we had, I think kindergarten this year is like 15 and a half. And we've got some that are below 17. It's hard sometimes because you either go, if you go down a section, sometimes you go over. So there's that funny spot where you can't really make a change. But I think that there are some opportunities depending on what happens with our, a little bit of our in and out migration. That's why when you get numbers, where we are in March, because January, sometimes we see a lot of in and outs of people moving. That's a good time. Where families sometimes move into elementary school districts. So we'll see where we are. But I just wanted to make that aware that we do have that on our radar. But fortunately, we've got a situation where we don't have to worry about letting a staff member go because we have an opening, and we will just roll with that until we know that we need that one for sure.
Thank you.
So on the out of district, we did obtain some new information on placements that will be continuing with us next year. And so we were able to reduce out of district tuition by, it's sort of an odd number, but it's sort of how my formula was working. It's like $316,900. So that is a nice adjustment to be able to roll into your budget because we had been so over budget, right? So there were some placements that we have this year that we were able to confirm will not carry over into next year. And when we did the budget in November, we didn't know that information. So this is really accurate information in that we do know for sure these placements will not be continuing. So these are not projections, these are known. That's a known piece of information. So we are reducing that by over $300,000. But on the flip side, we're increasing the transportation by almost $75,000. So the net to out of district is a reduction of $244,000 and puts us at a overall increase of $252,500, which is just under a 10% increase. So your version 2.0 budget right now sits at a 6% increase, down from 8.83. So this is typically what does happen. In the budgets, we start with sort of our high water mark, and our hope is that as we roll forward version 2s, we're only making adjustments downwards and not hopefully making adjustments upwards. So this is the best we know as of now. Like I said, this will be presented to Dover Warrant tomorrow night. And then most likely you will have a version 3.0 in March, right prior to your budget hearing. So we'll roll out any other adjustments that we have, and then we'll roll right into the public hearing. So those dates are in the memo for you, just so you can sort of watch the flow of the process. And we took it all the way through to once it leaves our hands and goes to the towns, with the Dover Warrants open hearing, and then the town meeting, and then the town election. If by chance the capital request becomes a ballot question, then that is voted in May.
And
In your
Don,
packets,
the
Go ahead.
budget as it is still has the new curriculum and the new curriculum position that we still haven't fully come to the school committee for, like the full debrief on all that. Yeah, but that's all
Exactly.
still inclusive.
Yep, all those placeholders are still there. So that's what I'm
Okay.
saying. In March, we might know more about that, and we could have some tweaks. We might know more about out of district. So I think those are a few areas that could potentially be tweaked before you guys vote on your final budget in March.
Thanks.
So in your packet is sort of an updated, and if we had been in person tonight, I was going to bring you copies for your budget book. So I'll make sure that we get you those, because it's nice to sort of keep your budget book up to date, but a new sort of table that shows you all the different categories for out of district, the age groupings, and how we rolled forward from 24 budget to 25. So that is in your packet, but I'll make sure you get hard copies next time we meet, so that you can actually update your budget book.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Dawn?
Again, as you review this and have any other thoughts, just send them to Liz, and she can pass it along for us for answers.
Yes, for sure. Next would be our action items, which we do not have any tonight. So that puts us into our consent items. So in our packets, we were given the Dover School Committee meeting minutes from November 21st. There was also the information about the IDEA grant. Also included was the town report, which they publish. And then finally, there's the preschool tuition fiscal year 25 rates. Don, do you mind just giving a quick reminder about the IDEA grant and then explain the preschool tuition rate?
Sure. So the IDEA grant, the 274 grant, we haven't actually had it in a while. And when it is out, it focuses on professional development. Because the state is rolling out a new IEP, they are making sure everyone has enough funding available to bring everyone up to speed, whether it be training, materials you need to purchase. Kate McCarthy has done a great job. We're actually ahead of the curve in that we sort of were looking to adopt it early initially. So they did a lot of training this summer. But there's additional training we can do. There's additional training that we can do before it rolls out in the fall. So this was money that hasn't been awarded in a while, but was awarded to all 3 districts. But the primary focus is to support the implementation of the new IEP. So that's all it can be spent on. So we have submitted a budget in that regard, and it has been approved. So that just gives us a little more safety net to make sure that everyone feels that they're comfortable before this rolls out.
Mm-hmm.
On preschool, so annually, both school committees, and we have the same rates in Dover as we do in Sherburne. And remember, you have a pre-K at Chickering because it's an integrated pre-K, because it allows us to service those students in pre-K who need to be on IEPs. So we don't have a preschool necessarily to serve the general public. We have a preschool to serve our special education students, but with that, you need a cohort of general ed students. And so that's why we open it up to tuition paying families. And so Naomi O'Brien has done a great job since she's been with us, and sort of formatting the program so it's very easy. So you come 3 days or 5 days. So it's not your typical preschool where you can, do 2 days. And so because it fits in what needs to happen with our special education students. So on an annual basis, the school committees approve an increase. They do look at our area preschools to make sure that we're still sort of in the ballpark of what's being charged, so that we're competitive. But remember, we don't have tons of seats, so we're not looking to fill a whole classroom of preschool. And we're proposing a 3% increase, because if you remember, all of our staffing contracts have a 3% increase, and predominantly our preschool expenses are salaries. So that is where we arrived at the 3% for fiscal year 25.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions about any of these items? I don't know if anyone has a comment on the minutes or a question about the grant or the tuition. Okay, so we have got to vote on this, and I am wondering if I can get a motion to approve our entire consent agenda.
So moved.
Thank you, Martha. May I get a second?
Jeff Cassidy, second.
Thank you. Do I need to do a roll call because we're on Zoom? Okay, so we are going to vote by roll call. Goli Sefer? Sorry, I caught you off guard. You have to unmute yourself.
Goli Sefer, yes.
Jesse Hole?
Jesse Holt, proof, yes.
Jeff Cassidy?
Yes.
And Martha Castle?
Yes.
Liz Grossman, yes. The motion carries unanimously. Next item is our informational item. So, sorry, I'm just getting back up to the top. In our packet, there's the link to the Chickering January newsletter. Hopefully everyone was able to read that. Our next meeting is scheduled for March 14th. And I am wondering also, does anybody have any items that they would like to discuss at that meeting or in a future meeting that you would like to bring up now? Yes, Goli.
I just wanted to, Liz and I discussed something briefly, and I just wanted to see if this is something that we can add to the agenda or we can discuss now. We thought about having pictures of staff on the website and see if this is possible to do for families to get to see basically everybody, including custodians and kitchen staff, and basically all the admin staff and everybody.
Thanks, Goli. I'm not sure if that's something we can answer right now, or we should just like table to bring to the next meeting. So it's on the agenda, but I have written it down for that. Does anybody
Thank
else
you.
have, sure. Anyone else have anything that they're thinking about? Okay, so if something is to come up, please feel free to reach out and I will add it to the list for the March meeting. So that brings us to the end of our meeting. Can we adjourn? I can never say that word. Can we adjourn unanimously, or do we have to roll call it as well?
This one's always tricky because who's going to oppose adjourning, but you should probably officially do it by roll call.
All right, so by roll call, Goli,
Goli Sefer, yes.
Jesse Hole,
Yes.
Jeff Cassidy,
Yes.
Martha Castle,
Yes.
Liz Grossman, yes. Thank you, everyone.